Guess what? You're in luck. Today, Kristen Brown, our valued client, is here to help us do just that by sharing some behind-the-scenes secrets she has to skyrocket your career. She skyrocketed her career, tripled her fees, and can demand 5-figure speaking gigs.
Ooh.
Is that amazing?
Yeah.
Good stuff. She's an international keynote speaker and author who drives growth at organizations like, get a load of this list, you guys. Rodan and Fields, General Mills, Boston Scientific, Cargill, Minnesota Vikings, go Vikes, go Vikes, Cox Automotive, and many more. Her programs are for organizations who want to develop high-performing teams, win-win leaders, and top-notch salespeople. Now, who doesn't want that? All of us, right? She's named the top 20 trailblazer in the industry by Meetings Today magazine. She uses her master's education and 15 years corporate leadership, sales experience working with some of the world's biggest brands to bring real insights, entertaining stories, and actionable results to the audiences. Kristen has been featured, and this is really cool. She's been featured in national media sharing insights from her best-selling books and research, including Live with Kelly, and I saw that, and you rocked, by the way. CNN, Working Mother, Psychology Today, and many more. Now, Kristen admits that her biggest faults are she occasionally is a know-it-all and sometimes a workaholic, but she loves movies, summer, bacon. We want to hear a little bit more about that. Reading, maps, and most of all, her darling daughter, Brooke. With that, will you all please help me in welcoming Kristen Brown.
All right. So it's 2013, and I am in my kitchen in my home office after having worked a 10-hour day at my corporate job. I had been in corporate America for about 10, 12 years at that point, but was transitioning out of my corporate role and really wanted to start a speaking career. I had been speaking on the side for 3 or 4 years, and I was talking about stress and change and joy and happiness and all of those things that we all need more of in our life. And I was speaking for women's groups and hospitals, and life was good, and I loved what I was doing, and I really had made a pretty big decision to do that because I was in corporate, wanted to do that on the side. I had a 10-month-old baby when I started speaking, and I'd actually been widowed a few years before. So I was doing this all on my own. It was really crazy. It was a big move. I got my master's certificate. I got a holistic health coaching certification. I'm like, I am going all in. I'm gonna do this. I'm leaving corporate. I'm gonna replace my income. And I realized it wasn't that easy. I had been speaking maybe 15, 20 times a year for the first 2-3 years on the side while working 40 hours a week, and felt like that was pretty good, squeezing it in. But when I sat down at my kitchen in 2013, having been doing it for about 3-4 years, and I looked at how many I was doing and how many I would need to do in order to replace my income, and I was making way into the 6 figures in my corporate job. I knew I didn't have to make that much, but I knew I had to make enough to support myself, support my daughter. I looked at my computer, and I looked at my spreadsheets, and I looked at my QuickBooks, and I'm like, I can't leave corporate. I can't leave my corporate job, but I want to leave my corporate job. I need it out. So I knew I had to find a way to transition what I was doing about stress, change, happiness, those things that I really was passionate about and what I wanted to talk about, but make it more marketable so I could get paid more, so that I could impact more people, so I could get it in front of more, so it would be easier for me to get hired by the people that had the money. Because what I had learned the hard way is that when you're talking about joy, when you're talking about stress, when you're talking about happiness, when you're talking about improving lives, you kind of top out at about $2,500. Now, that's not bad money. That is not bad money to go make $2,500 to do a speaking gig and sell some books. And I'm not saying that's bad money at all. But when you are doing 20 gigs a year for $2,000, $2,500, that's not enough money to replace your corporate gig. So I knew I had to make some changes. I had to figure out how I was going to change what I was doing, be more marketable, to make more money. So that really set me off on a journey to amp up my client list. And my daughter was really young at that point still, so I didn't want to travel yet. I wasn't ready to get on airplanes every week. So I knew I had to focus on the corporate market here. I knew I had to start working my network. I had to start getting my client list built up so that my reputation would skyrocket. I had to get in front of different groups and not be in front of the women's groups anymore. Again, not to discount women's groups, but oftentimes they were calling and saying, hey, can you speak for free? And there is a time and place for that, which we'll talk about later. but I knew I had to transition. I had to figure it out. So today, I'm going to give you some of the tools that I used along the way, the tools that I've learned from other people. I don't take credit for uncovering how to do this on my own. This is really a hybrid of I've spent, if you went to my QuickBooks, I bet I've spent over $100,000 on coaches, training, conferences to learn how to do this. So I'm going to give you behind the scenes. This is not a speech I would ever give on a big stage for corporate. I speak about sales, leadership, and performance on the big stages. If you want to learn about it, you can go to my website, you can look at my programs. So this is different. I don't use PowerPoint on big stages. I don't do hot seats and have someone come up and have you tell me what you want to speak about, and then we're going to dig into your background. So today's a little bit different. It's really a training. It's really free-flowing. I've got a PowerPoint with some bullets really just to help guide both of us as we talk about some of the things that I did along the way. Here's what I want, though. I don't want you to think, okay, it's going to take me 5 years. Because 2013 is when I started that. So yeah, 5 years. It may, but it doesn't have to. I really, in the last 18 months, I started working with a mentor named Connie Podesta. She's a millionaire speaker. And in the last 18 months, my fees have tripled. I have gotten on huge stages. Next week, I'm going to Las Vegas to the MGM Grand, which has been a bucket list item to be on one of, literally the MGM Grand is where I wanted to speak because their homes are amazing. For thousands of people for a direct sales company's national convention. 15,000 people will be at this conference.
Oh, I love it.
So in the last 18 months has really been when it's taken off. So I'm just going to be giving you lots of tips today. I don't want you to think you have to go do all of them tomorrow, but I really want you to just start thinking a little bit differently about what you do. Some of you may have already worked with corporate or in corporate yourself. You may already be serving corporate. But the key here is to really think about your brand and think, how do I bring something that they truly need? Not what I want to talk about, because you are not the star of the show. When I get on stage, I'm not the one that I want to leave there feeling like, oh, Kristen, she was awesome. I want them to walk out there going, I'm awesome. I know what to do. Not anything about me. I don't even care if they forget my name. I want them to leave empowered and motivated. And so that's how you need to think about your information. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Totally free tomorrow. All right. So take a look at this list, thinking about the needs of corporate America. So I was working with a client. I'm still working with her. And she's a sexologist. She talks about sex. And she wanted to get her brand more corporate centric so she could make more money. And I said, well, let's look at your website. On her about page, it says, I'm a woman who owns a flogger. You don't know what a flogger is. Look it up.
Oh, funny.
And I said,
asked her this morning.
I listed some of these things off to her. And I said, how does your topic help with any of these things? So I'm just going to read them quickly. I don't normally read, I don't have bullet points usually or text if I do a PowerPoint. In this case, I'm going to because I want to talk about some of them. Every corporate team is only paying money to make money. They're not going to pay anyone anything unless you're going to help them make money in some way. So more sales. Well, obviously that's going to make them more money. Stronger leadership. When you have stronger leaders, you've got a stronger team. They're going to be more productive, and it all leads to higher productivity. People are working harder, better, smarter, more money. Customer service. When you have loyal, dedicated customers, they're going to pay more. They're going to keep coming back. More money. Cost savings, better communication. If you're communicating more effectively within your company, well, that's going to lead to people communicating and making better decisions, having more effective meetings, more money. PR, media presentation skills, product innovation, they all drive down to that more money. So you always have to step back and say, whatever you do, how are you going to help them make more money? Write it down. Make more money.
Make more money.
Make more money. So I want you now, just like as a group, anything else that you can think of that corporate would need besides some of those things that potentially your business could help. Just throw out some ideas if they're not already listed. Anybody have anything that popped up to your mind, in your mind? It's a pretty exhaustive list.
Probably like, I'm not a, that's not my area, but like protecting the asset, like employee wellness,
Mm-hmm.
making sure the employees are healthy and
Yep.
and that kind of thing.
It's a good one. And I'm glad she did. I did not plant her. I left that off this list because so many people naturally think, there's so many speakers, so many authors, so many photographers, so many experts, so many consultants that fall into that wellness category, or they want to go to HR. And a lot of times that's when you're positioning yourself ineffectively, because even corporate wellness, even HR, they don't have the money that some of the other departments have that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So that list was just a way to get you thinking more money, but lots of expertise, lots of product, lots of different services could fall in there. I know there's some photographers in the room. Well, why? Yeah, you're a photographer. So if you were to go to corporate, I'm gonna put it on the spot, and I do this, I can't opt out.
I was gonna raise my hand anyway.
So if you go to corporate, how are you positioning yourself so that you're helping them make more money with what you provide as a photographer?
Well, I'm looking at your corporate needs list and I'm putting it in context of what I'm actually in the process of doing, and that's selling to other photographers my product.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at more sales, stronger leadership, higher productivity, customer service, which would be the cornerstones of what it is I would offer. Instruction for them
Yeah,
on how they can get their clients to buy what we want to sell them.
yes,
So yeah, this is right in line with what.
good. And sometimes it's like well, duh. Like we know these things, we know we have to position ourselves in a way that, you know, we're helping them make more money, but sometimes we forget because we get so self-focused. Well, I'm a stress expert. I gotta talk about stress. You can talk about stress, but you have to lead with their problems first. And your programs can still be on stress or happiness or change or whatever. Yeah, Karen.
I don't know exactly how to frame it, but it's retaining talent, so you foster creativity. So
Yes.
that people aren't working just for the dollars. I know you want to make more money,
Yep.
but you have to have employee feeling satisfaction.
Yes, and when employees are satisfied and creative, they're gonna create more products, they're gonna come up with the next $1 million idea, they're gonna stay longer, you're gonna have less training costs, they're gonna be sick less often. So, yeah.
So it is product innovation, but it's more than that too.
Absolutely. So you can think way bigger than these things, but always coming back to that, how is this gonna help this company make more money? So, what else? So now when we think about your brand, I want you to just kind of a laundry list here of some ways that you can start to think about what you need yourself. If you're looking at your website, if you're looking at your marketing materials, if you're looking at how you carry yourself out in public, each one of these has multiple bullet points under. We don't have time for that today. I just want to give you sort of the high level so that you can get a feel for, well, okay, what are the things I need to consider if I'm starting to streamline my brand? And you may need just a little tweaking, you may need an overhaul, or maybe you don't serve corporate at all and you're starting from scratch. So these are just a few things to consider. Everything that you're putting out, website, all the marketing message, any verbiage that you have anywhere, results focused. What is that thing that you're doing to help them get a result? And we all know features, benefits, SWOT analysis, there's all kinds of people that teach results. You always have to step back and just go one step deeper. So if you're talking about happiness, why do you want employees to be happy? Well, we want them to, love coming to work. Why do you want them to? So they work harder when they're there. Okay, why do you want them to work harder when they're there? Well, so that, they come up with more ideas and they get more done. Well, why do you want them to do that? And you just have to keep going deeper, and finally you'll get to that little magical phrase. And it might be 3 levels up from that, and you may have to go 3 levels down. It totally depends on who you're targeting, which we'll talk about in a minute, within that corporation, which department, how you're wanting to marry your expertise and what they need. Next one is consistent. When I first started my business, for about the first 4 years, I did about 6 or 7 different things. So I was talking about stress. I had a book. I did media. I also had a PR company on the side. I also did some book marketing coaching. I also did some speaker coaching. Because I was still in corporate, I wanted to make enough money. I was doing anything that anyone would pay me for. And that's okay when you're getting started. Having multiple streams of income is critical. But I was confusing myself and I was confusing anyone that would come to my website. So you really have to be sure that whatever message you're putting out into the world, people think of you and they're like, oh yeah, Kristen does this. Not, oh, Kristen does PR, but she also talks about stress. Wait. And I was forcing them under an umbrella, and it was a terrible force because they don't relate. PR and stress, oh, okay, it's a stretch. So doing PR was stressful. So I was almost not living my truth by doing PR. So really thinking about the consistency that you have between marketing, between social media, between your different streams of income. Because multiple streams of income, awesome, but you have to make sure it's consistent. Next one is elevated. Now this is where I always have so many people get so mad at me because they're like, I am not a supermodel. I don't want to run a marathon. I don't want to be skinny. I don't need to drive a BMW. But if you want to speak to corporate teams and get paid $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to be on stage, to be an expert, to be a consultant, to take photos for them, to get big long-term contracts, you better look like someone has in the past at some point paid you $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000. You walk in with scuffed shoes, or your hair is all disheveled, or you just, look like you just rolled out of bed. You don't have to be a supermodel. You don't have to be skinny. You don't have to be good looking, but you have to look like you respect yourself enough and you've made enough money in the past to appear as though they should trust you, respect you, and like you in that realm. Now, I am the queen of jeans and a t-shirt. I left corporate America and I got rid of I worked on site at Target Corporate for a couple years, so I had more business suits than you can imagine. Bringing those into the consignment store was the happiest day of my life. Take them, didn't even want any money for them. But when I started to grow my business in the corporate world, I knew that I had to step it up. I knew that if I was going in public, even though I wanted to wear my jeans and t-shirt, and here you will maybe sometimes still see me in jeans and a t-shirt, but I will step it up all the time. And that doesn't mean I'm always wearing a dress. I usually only wear a dress when I speak. But a couple years ago, I bought a nice sporty little car because it just helped me feel more confident. It was just part of my fake it till you make it image. If I'm on stage at a big speaking gig, I will wear a gold necklace right here, like a collar, because you want people on your face, you want gold, you want the sparkle, you want to look like, dang, she's a $10,000 speaker. This used to be my purse that I carried for a long time. Over my jeans and t-shirt. Look at it, it's kind of ripped right here. And I mean, it's a fine purse. It's well loved. I like that. This is a music festival purse, right?
I'm an artist. Have you seen what we look like?
And that's okay. It's okay to wear this to a music festival. I was wearing this to speaking gigs. I was, I was, and it's a dumb little thing, right? It's a dumb little thing. But now I carry a real leather gold logo, like nice purse. And I have another one that's gray. I have another one that's ivory. Depending on the time, it's so stupid and people get so mad when I talk about these little details, but they matter because the second someone sees you, they're making a judgment. Is that someone I want to pay $10,000 to? And if you don't look in the mirror and say, 10,000 right here, no one else is going to pay 10,000 either. So I get lots of pushback on this because there's lots of things that go into this. And I've worked with Carol right here, awesome. She works for Wardrobe Reimagined, and she helps. I'm meeting with her at 2:00 today because I still need to up level. I still need to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm putting out the vibe, the energy that I want. So get help. Go to Nordstrom and have someone do some personal shopping for you. It's free, but really think about how you want to elevate and own that fee that you want to have. Even if you're not making it up, even if you're making $500 right now or you're doing free stuff, make it till you make it because it'll help your confidence, it'll elevate you internally, and that will then magnetize people to you externally. Next one, knowledge-based. So that means that you actually have to know what you're talking about. I know so many speakers that will go on stage and they'll say, they'll share the quotes of 5 other people and use those quotes as the benchmark for their speech, which is good, but there's really nothing original. There's nothing deeper in that. There's nothing that's unique or cool that's going to help them be memorable. So you actually have to be a good speaker, a good photographer, a consultant that can actually has the goods to actually change what's happening in the corporate market. You don't have to have worked in the corporate market. People always say, well, I didn't work in corporate like you did for 15 years. You don't have to. You don't have to have that background. You just need to have some sort of expertise that they can use for those first things that I shared on that first slide to help them make more money. That's as simple as that. Doesn't matter if you've worked in corporate before. You have to have the knowledge. Next thing, personality plus. We've all seen speakers that are so boring. And you walk out and you're like, I don't know, I was on my phone the whole time because they were so boring, or I don't even know what they said because there was not a funny story, they didn't crack any humor. It doesn't mean you have to be a comedian, but you do have to have something that keeps people's eyes on you. That's whether it's a story, whether it's a tip, whether it's getting people up out of the audience and bringing them on stage, which is one thing that I do all the time when I'm up on big stages. So you have to find something that shows off who you are, not just while you're on stage, or not just while you're taking pictures, not just while you're sitting in a boardroom, but also in your social media, in your LinkedIn. If you guys don't have a LinkedIn profile that's updated with a current headshot with really, really sizzling text, work on that. Work on that right now, because that's something you can do today that will instantly boost and elevate you beyond where you're at right now. So get your LinkedIn. If you want a recommendation, there's tons of LinkedIn experts within office centers. My favorite is Joanne Funch. Net, if you need a recommendation. I don't get anything through. Next thing is optimized website. Now, when I say optimized, I don't mean like the SEO and all that. I mean, yeah, you should have some of that, but I'm not that person. Ben is out here, you can talk to all kinds of people about all that sort of stuff. What I mean by optimized website is if someone goes to your site, it should sell you for you. And when they go to it, they should be able to easily navigate and see like, oh, speaker, oh, photographer, oh, consultants on X, oh, there's some videos, oh, there's the client list. It should all be so crystal clear when they open that homepage that they know exactly what you do in an instant. They can go see whatever they need to do because they're so busy. The people that are hiring anyone externally, they're doing a lot of vetting. Oftentimes it's not their job to find someone. They might be an admin, might be someone who's like a VP of sales who's looking for someone for their conference. It's totally usually a side job. So you have to make it so easy for them that they can absolutely see it. And your website, there's so many pieces of it that you need to consider: your About You page, your home page, the programs you offer, the types of services, the types of products that you offer have to have the language that's consistent with that making money, making money, making money. Finally, content driven. You don't want to have to always be reselling yourself. Who likes sales? Here they go. Most people hear sales and they're like, oh. So you don't have to be constantly selling yourself. But if you have a platform, your brand that's built on content and your personality and all of these things that we've talked about, it will instantly be a seller for you. So if you're writing articles on LinkedIn about whatever it is that you do and why that's going to help someone make money, why it's so powerful, why it's so important in the corporate market, why it's important for sales teams or whatever it happens to be, you can then go to whoever is your potential hirer, and instead of saying, hey, I've got this thing that I think would be great for your company, you want to have a meeting, and doing kind of the sales 101, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is, hey, I've got this article I just wrote on LinkedIn, thought you might love it, thought your team might love it, check it out. That's it. And then they start seeing that regularly. They'll probably follow you on LinkedIn. They start seeing that you are a content machine that has real insights, real knowledge that's up here, and that'll make selling a whole heck of a lot easier. And that'll help actually lead also to the outreach plan that I'll talk about in a minute. So I want you to just turn to the person next to you. And if there's 3 of you, that's okay. And I know partner work. I'm not going to make you do any massages or anything. I just want you to talk with the person next to you for 3-4 minutes about what you offer and how you could potentially tweak your language. And maybe you're already doing a great job at this. Well, how you could tweak your language just a little bit to either hit the things I showed on the first screen or to technology, or ones that I had with the check marks, where it's results based, where it's all of the things that I listed before. So 3-4 minutes, I'll flip it back to that very first one so that you can see that and have some ideas. Okay, 3-4
No, I work for office. Work on self-motivation. I work for office. So I'm not a consultant. I like handle a lot of tech stuff for the company. So like I'll do these live streams. I'm a graphic designer. Yeah. Oh, not this side. I work at
One more minute. All right, wrap it up. All right, let's hear a couple of examples. Amy, I know you'd love to share. All right, so Amy works for the National Institute of Social Media, as does Jen. Give me some ideas that you guys came up with for being corporate centered.
So we have a program, and we actually are launching a dozen classes that will deliver in a corporate environment. And one of them is what's called social selling. So it's working with organizations to help them up their digital presence so that they are like a lot of your salespeople are very comfortable in person, but they can't figure out how to transition that into the online environment. So that includes their social media sites, their website. You know, how do you do that when you're talking face to face with someone? So the concept is there, and people get that they need it, but it's kind of hard to explain how we can help them do that. So we actually, I started copying this list down, and I'm like, I'm just gonna write down the ones that I could put into the social selling flyer, and I added every single one of them. I'm like, oh, they all fit. But it's flipping that conversation and saying, instead of saying to them, because they shouldn't understand what a digital presence is. Why should they? That's our area of expertise.
They don't know what they don't know.
But we can talk to them about how they can increase their sales by having an easy to navigate, website and how that, and just integrating literally all of those keywords.
Yes.
So that's the plan, is to take the flyer that we have now that we send out to help people kind of bridge that gap and understand what it is that we do by using these words that are definitely more trigger words.
Yes. If you go to my website on the homepage, I have a little graphic there that literally is bullet points just like this. They're a little bit longer, but where I have the sell more, I have that bolded, and that's the top 11 reasons why you should hire Kristen. And it's basically it's versions of that. You can do the same thing, because you can almost all of you be able to take your content, flip the conversation to fit it into at least one of these things. Okay, anybody else want to share something they came up with that was maybe an aha or interesting? I won't force you, but if anybody wants to.
Why do I get forced? I get more.
She owes me favors.
For mine, I've been speaking, so I'm in corporate and it's going very well, but I've been speaking to one segment and it's adding some language to speak to another segment. And I've been thinking about it, but this was good to just say it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we get stuck in our own heads, right? We're so used to talking about our brands and our businesses the way we always have,
Right.
with us as the star of the show. And this is really forcing you to flip it and make them the star of the show, and you're the one that helps them be the star. So always think about that. How do you make them the star of the show? All right, so that's just kind of giving you just a taste of how you need to tweak your own brand. Now, when you think about that, and let's say a few months down the road, you've done all the work, you've tweaked your website, your materials, you've gotten everything where you need it to be. It'll be language, and everything is perfect the way you want. It's ready for corporate. You're ready to launch. Who do you outreach to? This is kind of just a generic corporate structure. And a corporation can be anywhere from 20 people to thousands and thousands and thousands all over the world type of a company. So when I say corporate, don't get scared like, oh my gosh, Cargill, biggest privately held company in the world. Oh my God, it's so hard to navigate. Don't get freaked out. You can start small. You can start doing small little local corporations, and you can only do that for your whole life if that's what you want to do. So don't get freaked out. This is just an example of some of the departments that are within corporations, and it's really small, so I'm just going to call a couple out. So usually there's the senior leaders. In this case, there's a CEO up there. And then there's usually some senior leaders right under the CEO, other C-suite, whether it's a chief marketing officer, chief operations officer, things like that. Sometimes there aren't those other C-suite people. Sometimes there's VPs, SVPs, directors. Completely depends on the type of company. But there's usually going to be some sort of technical department, whether it's IT, whether it's research and development, depends on the type of company. There's usually some sort of HR, admin type of department. Sales and marketing, finance, community operations, which could be PR, customer service. This one has event services, QA, testing, if there's products or anything like that. Business development, which can sometimes be sales. There's lots of ways that people put their names on the different departments. The key here, the reason I'm showing you this is because there's going to be a place where you can get in the door if you really step back and think, who needs what I have to offer? I want to show you a couple more. This is just an IT team, and you don't have to read these. This is just to show you the diversity of the types of corporate structures that there are. This is just an IT department. And look at all the people. You could go in at project management. You could go in at the end user technical support. I don't even know what those things mean.
Yeah.
But if that were your expertise and you could help those groups. Risk management, strategic planning. You're a consultant that specializes in strategic planning. Here's an IT department with a strategic planning arm. So that's an example of that. This is AT&T's corporate structure. Within each of these blobs, there's tens of thousands of people within each of those. So you think there's not a way for you to get into a company? This is Boston Scientific right now. This is their board of directors. So big corporations have a board of directors. This is their senior leaders, their chief financial officer, things like that. And then these are the people that report up into them. Med surge, endoscopy, neuromodulation. I don't know what any of that means. But I've spoken for Boston Scientific about 10, 12 times. Always gone in a different place. Yeah.
And how do you get this information? Are you trolling their website to like figure out who's got what in what area?
I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but there's all kinds of ways to find out this information. This was it's a free website called can't remember, there's so many different ones. So you can look on LinkedIn, of course. This is a website called,
I mean, there's Zoom info, there's
the official board. The official board. And so that's where I got this one. It has their name. Of course, you can pay to be able to get their contact information. I don't, because usually my background in corporate America was market research, also known as
that's great.
corporate espionage. I know anything I need to know. But people that don't have that level of expertise, there's tons of ways, and this is really reasonable. I think it was only like $200 a year to get the next level of contact information. So this is General Mills. So they've got their board of directors, they've got all of their different next level, kind of their C-suite top level, and then all these other ones. And like Annie's Foods. So Annie's Foods is a subdivision of General Mills. Under Annie's Foods, there's all those other departments that were listed on that first screen. So yeah, go ahead.
How do we do this for niche fields?
So give me an example.
Photographers, designers, smaller companies that aren't necessarily General Mills level,
Yeah,
where
so-
they would have that kind of information available. Most of that on website because it's public information. So how do we crack the smaller niche fields that we need to kind of get
Same
into?
exact way, LinkedIn and their website. So LinkedIn will have, if you go to LinkedIn and you look up XYZ company that's in the strip mall down from your house, people list on LinkedIn that work there. Everybody knows how LinkedIn works, right? They list where they work on LinkedIn, and then you can click the company name, it'll show you all the employees currently on LinkedIn that work there. So then you can sort of start piecing together, well, who's the CEO? Okay, this is the marketing person. And it's all information that's there. And just one quick phone call or one scan of the website, you can see what the email, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the template of the email, like Kristen.brown@xyzcompany.com, Kristen-Brown and one little secret here for that is if they have like a generic like support@xyzcompany.com, if they have a press releases page, oftentimes under the press releases, it'll say press contact jane.morgan@xyzcompany.com, and she's an employee of the company. There it is. Because sometimes they'll do that on purpose. They don't want the domain structure, but on the press releases page, they almost always have a contact there that will show you the template of the first name, last name company. So how you can start to reach out. So those are just some examples of how crazy some of these corporate structures are. And they can be way simpler, they can be way more complicated, but there will be places that you can get in the door. Depending on your expertise, I can't tell you exactly what you should do because everyone in here is different. Photography, we've got archaeology, we've got speakers, we've got consultants, we've got attorneys. So all of you are going to be a little bit different as to where you need to get in the door and where you want to go in the door, because you can't forget when you're doing this, you also have to do something you like. Don't force yourself to speak for corporate if you hate it. I mean, there's part of me that hates corporate America. That's why I wanted to get out. but there's also parts of corporate America that I love. The people that are excited, the people that are really the hard workers, the ones that want to be there. That's why I stopped speaking for government. That's why I stopped speaking for education. That's why I stopped speaking for healthcare. Because a lot of times, yes, they're corporate-ish, but a lot of times people are in those roles for a long time, and they're on a track. They're on a retirement track, and that's totally fine. I mean, I've done a lot of those groups, and you can too, and there is money in those groups. So don't believe what people say, there's no money in healthcare, there's no money in education or government. There is. You just have to be sure that those are the types of audiences you want to speak for. And in corporate, the reason I love it is because most of the time, you're always going to have times where they're being forced to be there. But most of the time, they are there, and they're really, especially if you talk to sales team, if you talk to leaders, those are the ones that are really going to be moving and shaking. Okay, so how do you connect? Well, we've just kind of been talking about that, right? So LinkedIn, networking events. When I first started my business, I was going to women's networking events. I was going to, the regular entrepreneurial networking events. And it took me like 3 years of going to those and banging my head against the wall to realize, like, no one from corporate is at these entrepreneur networking events. Why am I going to these? Yeah, it was good for me to grow, and the speakers at those were always good for me to grow my own knowledge base. But they weren't good for getting spin-offs. They weren't good for getting referrals to people that would hire me in the corporate market. So even though it's really uncomfortable, and sometimes they're not your people, and you totally just are like, ugh, force yourself to go to corporate networking events. So there's groups like Team Women, which has a lot more corporate in it. There's a group called Club E, which is actually Club Entrepreneur, but there's tons of traditional entrepreneurial thinkers that work for big corporations in groups like that. So really just think bigger. There's associations that you can join. You can go to different association meetings. You can go to their monthly meetings. And those have been really critical for me to just get in front of other people depending on what industry you're wanting to go after. Social groups, chambers of commerce, civic organizations. Now people hear, oh, I spoke for Rotary, but it's free. Here's the disclaimer I want to give you about speaking for free. I still speak for free sometimes. Audience is filled with people that will hire me. So even if you're a photographer and you're not a speaker, sorry I keep picking on you.
No, you're
legitimate, it's all good. You're not a speaker, you're not a consultant, you have a service that you're providing. So even if you're a photographer, you can still go to these meetings, you can still give a speech on how can you elevate your corporate presence with great photography. And there's someone in this room that can help you with that, Deirdre Van Nest, that can help you if you are not a speaker, but you want to speak and sell your services, sell your products to bring in more clients and more leads. I don't get anything for that.
Everybody hug Kristen at the end.
Now, see, that's So you have to force yourself to get out there to connect in new ways, and it's uncomfortable. I'm an introvert. People can't believe that, but I'm an extreme introvert. After this, I'm gonna have to go home and lay on the couch. So you have to force yourself. The quote, you want to change, you have to change. No change, no change. You have to get yourself into new markets, into new spaces, in front of new people. Saying you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with, choose wisely. Well, if you're always hanging out with the same 5 people, you're always going to be with the same 5 people. Right? So get out of your comfort zone, okay? So I want you now to turn to the person next to you, and I want you to just share with them. You can pull out your phone, you can look at your LinkedIn if you want. Just quick do a scan of your network. You don't have to send the personalized note now, but I just want you to share with the person next to you what you could reach out with. How could you reach out? Who's someone you could reach out to? Really high level. Don't get too detailed, but who in your network is in a corporate market or a corporate position that you could just send a greeting to, that you haven't connected with in a while in that market. It doesn't mean that's the person that's going to hire you. Just simply look at your list, your network right now, and identify 1 or 2 corporate people that you know. And then I'll tell you how to do the next step after that. Just a couple minutes.
You take pictures from the front. Your camera's the best. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I can talk to you. So actually,
One more minute, one more minute. All right, wrap it up. All right. So, you guys all just identified someone in the corporate world that you know. Does that mean that's your key contact? Maybe, maybe not. The key is to really start thinking about all these people, what their connection point is into the company, where they fit into that big corporate structure. And then you have to have an outreach plan for them. And again, it's going to be different for everyone based on what your expertise is, what your service or product is. But I just want to quick run through a couple of these so that you can get a feel for what an outreach plan should look like and what it should include. So you've identified someone. Maybe you've only identified a company, right? You need to then have it customized. However you reach out, you can't just say, cut and paste, hi, I'm Jan, and I think I could help you. Here's what I do. Will you be open to a meeting? Delete, right? But so many people still do that. You would be surprised. It's duh, right? I mean, that's sales 101. Customize it. So many people aren't because you're taking the shortcut. You just want to get your name out there in front of people, but you're getting your name out there in a negative way. So you have to customize it. Go do some research on LinkedIn. Use some of those tools that some people threw out earlier. Find out what these people do specifically in their jobs. Look at press releases for the company so that you can say, hey, I saw XYZ was just promoted to CEO. How does that impact blah, blah, blah. So that's the first thing, is customized, which ties to what I just said, that it's trend-based. So if you see something happening in the world that you think ties to a company, or you see that a company has put some news out into the world that's seasonal, maybe it's personnel related, maybe they've acquired a company, maybe there's been a merger, maybe they've laid off a whole bunch of people. There's always news happening from most companies that you can then pull. There's articles where people are being quoted. That's my favorite thing to do is, hey, I saw your quote in Twin Cities Business Journal talking about XYZ. Love that. I'd love to hear more about that and quote you in my next article that I'm writing on LinkedIn. Am I selling them anything? No. I'm actually stroking their ego and asking them to be in an article I'm going to write. I actually, a few years ago, when I started working on a book that I'm still working on, I did a huge outreach to people in high-level HR roles, like chief HR officers at really giant companies. I reached out to several, and I asked if I could interview them for my upcoming book. So I actually have like 5 or 6 interviews. A woman from Jostens, a woman from Larabar, a woman from, so I have these interviews that I'm holding on to that I should be using, right? So sometimes do as I say, not as I do. But you can use the trend base to then personalize what you're reaching out with. On LinkedIn, did you see someone went to the U of M? If you send them a note, say, go Gophers on Saturday, or whatever. Find ways to make it feel like you did your research and that this is for them, not some generic cut and paste thing. Again, content driven, which I mentioned a couple times. Use an article. I have a podcast that my goal with my podcast, that it's on iTunes, it's out there, but I don't use that podcast to get a whole bunch of listeners. I could care less about that. I do my podcast episode every week, 15 to 20 minutes, so that I can use those episodes as content to send out to meeting planners that could potentially hire me. And I do my podcast not on joy anymore. I have some from when I first started on joy and stress and the light, fluffy topics, which are good. But now, like the one I did this week, here's what, so what, now what, then what. It's all about insights. How do you use insights in your business? And so using topics that are really, really digging deep into what they need. Light, bright, and polite, and helpful, really tied together. Don't talk about politics or religion or any of that stuff, because you don't know what that person's beliefs are. Keep yourself light, keep yourself bright, be polite, and be helpful. Don't be that person that's just stuffing their inbox full of junk. Because we know how email can suck your time and energy. Think about them. They're getting pitched every day by people doing what you do. So you have to, again, make them the star of the show, make life easy for them, because they'll remember that. You cannot be the diva, you can be the one that makes their life easier. And then systematize. So systematize means that this is making it easy for you behind the scenes. So you know that the first time you reach out to someone, you're sending them podcast number 1. The second time you reach out, you're giving them an article you wrote on Huffington Post. The third time you reach out, you're maybe going to slip in a little thing that you have a best-selling book and ask if you want to mail it to them. So you have a plan and a pipeline and a system for you, so that every time you reach out to someone, you know what you're going to be sending. And it may vary depending on who it is that you're reaching out to. There's other speaker coaches that teach this. Brendan Burchard, he calls it the speaker cannon. It means you're shooting out cannonballs one after another, and do it on a timeline. So week 1, week 2, week 3. And it'll be different for all of you depending on what it is that you sell. So I want you now to, again, turn to the person next to you for a minute and just brainstorm for a moment something that you could potentially be sending. Not something you could create, because in our minds right now we're like, oh, I could do a white paper, I could do this. Something you currently have in your library of content that you could potentially be sending out on your first outreach so that you're not salesy. Just a couple minutes.
Five minutes.
One more minute. All right. I want to hear a couple of these. All right. Ready? I'm going to pick on some people. So have in your mind what it is. What could you potentially share with on the first outreach? First, say your name and what you do.
Yep, I'm Mark Flaherty.
Okay, everyone.
I'm Mark Flaherty. I'm a financial staffing company, and one thing we started to do, we're fairly new to the marketplace, but we created 5 minutes with, and we just talked to someone in the marketplace that people might want to know more about. So just asking them questions. It can be just, what's kind of what you do when you're feeling down to pick yourself up. Who helped you along the way to make you successful? That sort of thing.
Interview interview stuff.
Yeah, so
yep, I love that.
Personal.
Those are super popular in podcasts too, and an interview, like any kind of interview roundup. So let's say you had like 6 of those, and you put them in a little one article. People love those. Those get lots of it. Talk to the NISM, National Institute of Social Media people. I'm totally making this stuff up. No. How about back here? Or weren't you doing it? You're just my timekeeper. All right. How about back here, Andrew? Think of anything that you could send out as a first outreach piece of content?
I did. Yes. So I'm an attorney, and I've done a portion of my practice is estate planning. I have done estate planning seminars over the years. Currently, it's not a real focus in my practice, but if I wanted to, I have like a form letter that I could mail out to Lions clubs and groups like that, churches, contact community education.
Good. How about Becky?
I'm a marketing consultant, and I have a number of blog articles I can publish, and they're really benefit oriented, sort of a how-to focus.
Yeah.
But it would really depend on which company it was going to, or who I knew there, who I'm getting in touch with.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, how about up here? Carol, think of anything?
I have content. The question is figuring out who could use it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the biggest question is all of us have some sort of content. We have, even if it's just living up here, it's how do you put it into a format that group needs? Maybe it's an infographic, just a one-page infographic. Maybe it's blog articles. Maybe you're writing for Huffington Post. Maybe you're doing a podcast. Maybe you're doing Facebook Lives. Completely depends on who your group is. So I want to leave a few minutes for questions. Before we do, I got to do the obligatory sales. So when I speak for corporate, I never sell from the stage. I don't even sell books at the back of the room. When I was, doing $500 things, yes, I would sell stuff at the back of the room because I had to make up for that. But now, if people are paying me $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, I am not going to get up there and sell. That's plenty of money to make my time worthwhile. So do not sell if you're making 5 figures or even high 4 figures. Don't do it. It makes you look cheap, not classy. It doesn't elevate you. You're not serving the audience and making them the star of the show in any way when you sell from the stage. Yes, if you're doing free gigs, if you're doing low-paid gigs, sell away. There are people that can teach you how to do it in a non-gross way. But I am going to, in a gross way. I never coach. I rarely coach. But because I'm now speaking for higher money and I'm speaking less, I actually find myself with a little extra time. So I thought, this is something that I really love doing. I love to shortcut. I don't want someone to take 5 years to be able to tap into the corporate market. So if you want me to help you customize what your brand looks like, how you want to really focus in, a couple different options. If you want to just do a quick brand booster call, we'll just get on the phone. I'll have looked at your website already. We'll talk through, I'm a sexologist. Well, you need a lot of work to be corporate-centric. And I hope she won't mind, but here's what her new tagline is. So she used to be full-on sex coach. Now her tagline is, I'm gonna botch it. Don't let personal trauma become corporate drama.
That's great.
So she's now going to start her outreach plan because we've gotten to that point where now she's got everything going the way that she needs to, and now we're going to start outreaching in a totally different way. Your big break is just a little bit further. We've got a couple sessions. We'll do a website review, and then the big kahuna, the corporate ninja. That's multiple sessions. We're going to kick it into gear really hard. We're going to look at media. We're going to look at content. We're going to do all that stuff. So. No pressure, but if you go to my website, KristenBrownPresents.com / there's a little handout, crack the code. You can see all the info there. So we got just like 2 minutes for a couple questions.
One of the things you did bring up, Kristen, that I have learned is to find out their fiscal year and when departments have money. Because many times you make a contact, they say, we love it, people don't have the money. So when might you have money?
Yes.
And then keep the relationship going.
Yes, love that, Carol. So you should always know what their fiscal year is. And sometimes you can find that on their website if it's a public company or if it's a really big company that has that information. Sometimes it's as simple as going and looking at, sometimes they'll be press releases when they are releasing things. Sometimes it takes a little bit more deeper dive, asking people that work there once you've gotten in the door. So great question. Because I've often been, oh yeah, end of the year we don't have money. Or end of the year, we do have a few extra $1,000. So work that. Any other questions?
I keep clippings from magazines, newspapers and stuff, or if something's on the news, and then I'll send them a note and say how it helped me.
Yeah.
It's very beneficial. So good. You can just stroke it in there.
Yes, stroke their egos. I mean, everybody likes that power, that ego.
What else? Would someone like me treat an individual like a corporation? Like if I'm targeting high-level clients in that same way, they're obviously not corporate, or they're not a company. They could be, but they're more individual. And am I applying the same context?
Yeah, and this would still apply for government, for healthcare. It's going to apply to anyone that you work for. The language may just be a little bit different. It just might be, you still want to be elevated. But I've actually been told by government that I'm too fancy. So like about 6 months ago, they said I was too fancy when they looked at my website because I have a gold emblem logo and I wear a gold necklace and I look high end on my website. And they said, oh, you're too fancy for our government workers in rural Minnesota. I'm from Western Minnesota. So then I have to tell I'll wear jeans and a blazer. Like I have to then downplay myself for some of those groups. So just know who you're talking to is always going to be customized. So. Thanks for coming. I'll be hanging around for a little bit.
Wow. What an honor. She rocked the host in what? Tens of those minutes?
You're going to auction this off.
$5,000. Oh, that was awesome. And would you believe we only have 2 more power lunches left before year end?
Wow.
So we actually have our next presenter for next month in the house today. Juan is going to speak to us about the secrets to corporate gift success. And we're going to learn the top 10 corporate gift secrets to get ready to wow your customers. Anybody that knows Juan, does he wow his customers? Woo! Yeah, so the holidays are coming, so we're going to learn from Juan. We're going to be ready to thank our customers and send them thank you gifts. So come learn from Juan the Cookie Man.
What's the date of that?
That's going to be October 26th at Park Office Center. And then in November, on the 30th, we're going to be at International Plaza. Amy Zastro is going to speak to us about making it a kick-butt year. And then it's holiday parties and holiday luncheons through December. Upcoming events. We have tons of fun and raising the roof here at Office Centers. We next Thursday is our Park Office Center networking event. We're getting 30, 40 people at that, and everybody has an opportunity to share. Join us for that. On the 5th, that's on the 5th. The 10th, Uncorked. Wine Uncorked at France. We have our wine cooler there. Everybody has an opportunity to meet one another, and we welcome our newest community members. So that is a fun one. But now we have to promote our October 19th event, where we are going to be partnering with New Business Minnesota for the Secrets of Success reception. We're calling it our Oktoberfest, where we're going to have food and beverages and music, and we actually have the hot off the press, our amazing fearless leader, with many of our valued clients. They're all going to be sharing their secrets. So everybody in, register, sign up, join us.
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun. We're going to be at Minnetonka Office Center on the 19th. So lots of fun events. We co-host, we promote. We have like probably 10 other things that we're doing with our clients. So join us. We'd love having you here. And everybody have a great rest of the day. And once again, a big woo-hoo for Kristen.